Our unlooked for allies are Kroot, an entire race of sellswords, most of them working for the Tau. There are several hundred of them on Estau, and the employ of Commander Brightsword. They're organized into family groups, which Oriel calls kindreds. And the one that came to our escape is led by a Kroot called Orak. There are 30 or so of them, and Orak invites us back to their camp after the fight in the bar. Oriel accepts. Obviously, he thinks that a refusal might displease our newfound allies and attract more unwanted attention. And we follow the tall, gangly aliens through the streets of the city. On our way out, we picked up our weapons, and I note the long rifles and power cartridge bandoliers that all the crew carry. Although they look like guns, the long rifles also have lengthy stocks, carved into vicious looking blades, and curved bayonet like attachments under the barrels. Recruit walk easily and confidently through the throng in the streets, their rangy legs carrying them along quickly and effortlessly until I'm panting in the heat to keep up. They chatter to each other with clicks and whistles, and the crowds part before them to get out of the way. Ahrad bustles up to Orak and tries to sell him a jar of something. Recruit isn't interested, and as the exchange continues, it seems to get more heated. Orak's quills quiver more and more, and with a final angry hiss, they stand out like spikes, a fearsome crest, which sends the Hrud scurrying into the gathering gloom. Problem? I ask the Kroot leader, who looks at me, his quills lowering again. Bad haggling, Orak replies, clicking his beak, laughing, I suspect. It was new here. It will learn. So how long have you been a mercenary? I ask as I half jog alongside the tall alien, puffing to keep up. The arid air turning my tongue dry. All my life, of course, Orak answers. I did not fight until I came of age, but always have been a fighter for the Tau Empire. How long have you been fighting? All my life as well, I reply after a moment's thought. But for myself, never for anyone else. Not even for family? The Kroot asks, quills shaking in surprise. Not for a long time, I tell him quietly. We carry on walking through the streets as the sun drips towards the horizon, turning into a large, deep red disk just above the domes. You will be fighting for Ovar? Orak says for a while. When he's in battle, I'll be fighting for sure, I reply, trying to think how to change the subject. Is your camp far? No, Orak answers abruptly. Why did you start the fight in the bar? Someone was going to, I tell him with a lopsided grin. I figured it'd better be one of us that did than one of them. Always pays to get the jump on the other guy. That makes sense, Orak agrees. Still, it was brave or stupid thing that you did. If we had not come to your aid, they might have killed you. It was just a bar fight. It never would have gotten that serious, I say with a shake of my head. You forget. Humans are despised by most races here. The Kroot disagrees, turning down a smaller street, leading off the main thoroughfare. Nobody would have missed you. Why such bad feeling? I ask, wondering what could have done to be so upsetting. You humans are everywhere. You spread across the stars like a swarm, Orak tells me, with no hint of embarrassment. You invade worlds which are not yours. You are governed by fear and superstition. We are led by a god. We have a divine right to conquer the galaxy, I protest, earning more clicking laughter from the Kroot leader. It is mankind's destiny to rule the stars, and the Emperor has told us so. Driven by fear and superstition. Even worse than the Tau and the Tau Va, the Kroot says, his voice suggesting good humor rather than distaste. What do you believe in? I ask, wondering what makes the Kroot think he's got all the answers. Change, he says, looking at me with his piercing dark eyes. As we learn from our ancestors, we change and adapt. We learn from our prey and grow stronger. The future is uncertain. To stagnate is to die. You worship change? I ask incredulously. No, human, he says, showing signs of irritation again. Unlike your kind, we simply accept it. Okay, see, when I was reading for Orak, I was like, man, I just realized for the first time, Zange is a bird. The Kroot are bird people, right? So it would, you'd think that you just line up those, but now he's saying change, right? He's saying that he doesn't worship change, but I was afraid that that might make the Zane like the Kroot Zancians, or at least just inherently Zancian, but now they're not really because he says he just accepts change. He doesn't worship it, and there's a big distinction there. Like it, I mean, their minds will still be open to being subverted by Zange, but at least they won't go out of their way to try to find it. The stars began to appear in the sky. The flames of the bonfire were stretched higher into the air. We're seated outside a half-finished dome with Orak and his kindred, and I watch the flames crackling on the great pyre. Huge streaming chunks of meat on sharpened poles hiss and spit within the fire, bringing the smell of cooking flesh and smoldering fat. I'm seated next to Oriole, who has been watching the Kroot closely since our encounter. What do you know of these guys? I ask him when we've got a bit of space to talk privately. Not too much, except that they are exceptional close combat fighters. You know that already, though, he tells me with a grim smile. The Kroot have been hiring themselves out as mercenaries to other races for hundreds of years, the majority of them to the Tau. They'll fight with or against anyone, as long as the pay is right. They don't look too rich for me, I comment. They really don't wear ostentatious clothes. They don't have palaces or anything like that. So what do they take as pay? It is rather grisly, Oriole warns me with a distasteful look. They fight for technology, arms, and ammunition, but also for the bodies of the slain. What do they want for them? I ask, intrigued at this somewhat morbid form of payment. They eat them, the Inquisitor replies curtly. They believe that by consuming slain foes, they can take prowess and skills of their enemy. They also eat their own kind, supposedly to preserve their souls or something. It's a bit complicated, really. But some magi amongst the tech priests believe that the Kroot may be actually capable of absorbing information through their food and passing it on to future generations. I don't understand the details, and it seems highly implausible to me, but the Kroot certainly believe it. They're cannibals, I say, gazing around with newfound horror at the aliens around us. That's pretty sick. To you or I, certainly, Oriole nods, but to them, it is perfectly natural. At that point, Orak joins us, with his rifle slung over his shoulder. The feasting shall soon begin, he tells us with relish, his eyes reflecting the firelight. Is this some kind of celebration? Tanya asks as drums and whistles begin to play somewhere in the darkness. Yes, it is, affirms Orak, standing tall above us, looking proudly over his kindred. Tomorrow, we will go to fight once more. Some of us will not return. Some of us will kill many foes and take their essence and grow strong. Either way, it is unimportant, as long as the Kroot survive, and the dead are not allowed to waste their treasures. Do you look forward to battle? Strelly asks. Is it an honor and glory thing for you? He's running a corner line. The others cut off themselves too. cradling the hot meat gingerly in their hands as they eat. We took these carcasses in our last campaign, and I've preserved them for tonight to bring luck to the coming battles, Orak informs. A sweet gift again during the coming war. I thought that Ovar was waging a war against humans, Schaefer says uneasily, looking hard at Orak. Yes, that is so, the Kroot confirms. I see a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach, and bile rises to my throat as I look at the cooling flesh in my hands. I remember Oriel's words. Cannibals. The Kroot are cannibals. It doesn't mean anything to them to eat their own kind. I look to the others, who are coming to the same conclusion. Trost's hands are trembling. Tanya clamps a hand over her mouth. Strelly hurls the hunk of meat away from him, getting a puzzled look from some of the surrounding Kroot. With a joke, Quidlin turns away and vomits onto the dusty ground, his retching punctuated by sobs. Is something wrong? Orak asks, his wheels rising slightly. Trost is about to say something, but the colonel cuts him off. I think perhaps the excitement of the brawl earlier has unsettled our stomachs, Schaefer says hurriedly, darting a venomous glare at all of us to contradict him. I understand. The Kroot accepts Schaefer's explanation, and his quills subside again. Perhaps the dish of honor will be more comfortable for you. He stands up and gestures to one of the other Kroot, who disappears for a minute before bringing back a covered tray. I can't help but notice the distinctly imperial look of the silver platter, probably looted from the noble's house. Together, we share this morsel, Orak says sincerely. Your kindred and mine will be linked, for we shall share the same essence of the foe, and eating together, we shall become a wider kindred. None before have I allowed this with a human, but your actions impress me. You fight as brave warriors and sit with pride at the feast. Join me now. He lifts the lid with his four-fingered hand to reveal what is unmistakably a raw brain, a human brain. Okay, we're still going now. That's weird. It's telling me my connection's unstable. My bad. A human brain by the look of it. In the firelight, the gray mass shines orange, and I can still see a piece of spinal cord dangling from it. I want to gag. Orak picks it up reverently in both hands and holds it above his head and declares something in his own tongue. Not for this feast, the quick gorging of battle, he tells us. With pride we eat the most precious of our flesh. This warrior was a great leader, and his soldiers battled well against us. I have been saving this gift for only the most worthy to share with me, and now I offer it to you. He lowers the wobbly brain to his beak, and he nimbly strips away some of the rubbery flesh. He turns towards us and offers the brain forward. We just sit there dumbfounded and nauseous, looking at the quivering pile in Orak's hands. Who among you will share this treat with me? He asks, looking at each of us. None of us move except to swap horrified glances. Even the colonel looks pale. Who among you will share this treat with me? The Kroot leader asks again, his quills beginning to tremble. This is a great honor, and I do not offer it lightly. When none of us react, clicks and quiet squawks begin to sound all around us. And the Kroot I see are getting to their feet, their quills extending in anger. I look at Orok, who holds the brain upwards like a medal. Fighting back the sickness, threatening to swamp me, I stand up. I will share this treat with you, I reply hoarsely, and I hear a hiss of breath from the other last chancers. I gulp hard. I can hardly believe I'm going to do this. If I don't cough, it could be with my brain on the platter next time. The Kroot doesn't seem too pleased with us at the moment. Very well, Orok says, preferring the human brain towards me. I take it gingerly, my hands trembling. The touch of it makes me want to hurl up the contents of my guts. It's soft and seems to slither in my grasp as I lift it up above my head for the assembled Kroot to see. My body shaking, I slowly lower it again and look at the organ in my hands. I try not to think about the man that it once belonged to. I try to pretend it's something else, like Grok's brain. I've eaten that before. It doesn't work. It's like it has eyes that stare at me accusingly. Gulping again, I lift the brain to my lips and glance at Orok. He gives me a casual wave to proceed, leaning towards me eagerly. My mouth is very dry and my throat feels like someone is choking me. I close my eyes and bite down on the brain. It doesn't come away easily. I have to gnaw a portion off. My gut rebels, but I choke back the bile in my throat. I swallow hard, not daring to chew, and that almost makes me vomit as well. Opening my eyes, I hand the rest back quickly. Orok lifts it up again, once more for all to see, and we're surrounded by a sudden clamor of bird-like shrieks and stomping feet. I guess I passed the test, but I feel like fainting. I don't think I'll ever forget the taste. Orok passes the honor dish to another Kroot and gestures for me to accompany him slightly outside the circle. That was well done, he tells me, bending down to talk quietly in my ear. Thanks, I reply, desperately trying to forget the last half minute of my life. I understand how difficult that was, he confides to me, his black eyes gazing into mine. You do? I ask, surprised at the comment. I am not stupid, human, Orok assures me, laying a long-fingered hand on my shoulder. I know you do not share the same beliefs in our abilities. You knew how disgusting I thought that was? I said angrily, remembering at the last moment to keep my voice to a whisper. Why the friggin' hell did you do that then? To see if you would, Orok says evenly. To see what kind of humans I would be fighting alongside. We go to fight against you, your own kind. What you have just done proves to me that when the fighting becomes fierce, you will not stay your hand. Now return to your friends, and I will have brought you food that you will find more agreeable. I stumble back into the firelight and sit down, heavy with the others. It was a damn test, I tell them. All along it was a damn test. Well, we seem to have weathered it, Oriel says, lying back with his arms behind his head. Yeah, I say sourly. Next time you can eat the brains, though. We decide not to return to the skull-laden bar and our rooms after the trouble we caused, as our reappearance might not be appreciated. Instead, we make a rough camp not far from Oric's kindred. As we watch their fire dying a couple of paces away, Oriel calls us all together. Orok said they are leaving tomorrow, he says. That doesn't give us much time, I suspect. If they are leaving, Brightsword will be making his inspection soon. I haven't been able to make contact with Coldwind, so we might have to play this by ear for a while. Wake up bright and early tomorrow. We could be forced to move at any moment. The night passes fitfully for me, close as we are to fighting for the final part of the mission, and mixed with scattered nightmares of horrific feasts with the Kroot. In one dream, I imagined devouring Brightsword's brains, even as the others point at me and hurl abuse. I awake just before dawn, caked in sweat and dust, and push myself hurriedly to my feet. I see that the colonel is awake already, standing, looking at the coming sunrise with his hands behind his back. Do you think it will be today, sir? I ask him, and he turns and glances at me across his shoulder. It's not often we talk, but sometimes we do, and sometimes it even makes me feel better. Perhaps not today, he says, looking into the distance again. But if not today, then certainly tomorrow. What if we can't talk to Coldwind? What do we do then? I say, a slight doubt nagging at me. We will do what we can. Cage replies quiet. Schaefer replies quietly. He spins on his heel suddenly and turns his ice blue stare on me full force. Will Tanya make the killing shot? Of course she will, I say hurriedly, taken back by the surprise question. If she does not pull the trigger when intended, the colonel warns me, you will certainly not live to regret it. If she doesn't pull the trigger, I say grimly, none of us will live to regret it. Oriole stood in the pre-dawn glow of the desert a few kilometers from the city and watched the lightened sky. The wind, chill at the moment, whipped up small devils around him, and he fluttered the long sand-colored cloak around his shoulders. He was sure he was alone. There was no sentient presence that he could detect. Removing a small wand-like object from the pocket inside his cloak, he placed it on the ground, driving it into the sand with a thump. Fiddling with the instrument, he activated the beacon, which began to pulse with a dim red light barely visible to him. But he knew the keen receptors of the craft it was intended for would pick it up as brightly as a searchlight. It was not long before a streak of light began to descend through the sky like a shooting star. It arrowed down towards Oriole, and then veered 1,000 meters up, swinging into a wide landing arc. As it grew closer, Oriole could make out the white-hot pinpricks from the shuttle's plasma engines. Through the black hole was all but obscured from view by the darkness. Another minute passes as Oriole waited, and the small shuttle began to slow. With barely more than a whine, it descended, sophisticated anti-grav motors kicking in, rather loud and clumsy jets. Rather than loud and clumsy jets. The hull shimmered and rippled, the darkness around it distorted by an energy field, which extended for several seconds. Oriole gave a silent prayer to the machine god, hoping that the Infernal Tau surveyors had been fooled by the specially constructed stealth shield. The tech priests had assured him this would be the case, but he was never one to rely on the artifices of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Clawed landing feet extended from the hull of the shuttle, taking a few seconds to settle the soft sand. The whine of the engines died down almost immediately, and a second later, the forehatch opened with a short hiss of pressure. The Inquisitor watched them passively as Dionys walked down towards the ramp, a metal reverberating to his heavy tread. His helmet under one arm. As he stepped off the ramp, it hissed back into place, and the shuttle shimmered, the cloaking field activating fully, causing the small craft to disappear from view. Within a few seconds, the small transport, which was barely 3 meters high and 5 meters long, was invisible. Greetings, Inquisitor, the new arrival said, stopping in front of Oriole, his voice low but clearly audible. And greetings to you, brother, Oriole responded formally, looking into Dionys's broad face. Are you prepared? I am always prepared, Inquisitor, Dionys chided him slightly. It is not my brotherhood's motto. Is it not my brotherhood's motto to be standing ready at all times to counter the threat when called upon? So you have sung your battle hymns and made your offerings to the Emperor? Asked the Inquisitor. I am ready to face the foe, My soul is pure and my weapon is cleansed, Inquisitor. We may not need of them yet, muttered Oriel, turning away. Praise the Emperor, Inquisitor, Dionys called out to Oriel as he plucked the portable beacon from its hole. Yes, Oriel replied with feeling. Praise the Emperor indeed. Today, we may well copy his sacrifice for mankind. Is it not what we were born for, Inquisitor? Dionys replied to him. Yes, sooner or later, agreed Oriel, with a grim smile to himself. Let's hope it's later, though. There's lots more work to be done here. Oriel woke up, not long after me, and headed off without a word to either me or the Colonel. I guess he's gone looking for Coldwind. If Brightsword is making his inspection today, we could be fighting within hours. The thought that I'll be in battle, real battle, against enemies trying to kill me sends a thrill through me. No more targets that don't shoot back. No endless drill and routine and theory. This is the real thing, and there's nothing like it. As the sun begins to creep over the horizon, between two domes in the distance, I sit down and begin to strip my autogun. My hands working automatically, allowing my mind to wander for a while. At first, I ran over the plan in my head, but it's so ingrained now, all the possibilities looked at, that there's little diversion here. I just want to start. I want the bullets to start flying, the blood to pump through my veins, the feeling of life, which I briefly grasped again during the shuttle hijack, but which was otherwise been denied to me for over a year. I want to know if Tanya makes the shot. Will Trost will do his job properly? Whether those months of hard training have been worthwhile. I want to know if I was right, if I deserve to be on this mission, or if the battle psychosis grips me again and the Colonel should have left me behind. The part that worries me more than anything else, I don't want to be the cause of the mission failing. It's odd. The mission for me isn't about stopping an alien commander invading a human world. The test has become more personal, a challenge from the Colonel and Oriole. It's whether I picked and trained the team well enough to complete the mission. It's whether I can hold up under the pressure. For me, that'll be the victory, regardless of the wider consequences. This isn't a battle against the Tau. It's a battle against Schaefer and the Inquisition he serves. Thinking deep thoughts? Asked Tanya, standing behind where I'm sat and looking at the coming dawn. Yeah, I say shortly, not feeling like sharing them with her. She's not my friend. There's nothing special between us. She's sharpshooter, and my only concern is that she makes the shot so we can get the hell out of the firestorm that'll follow. What are you thinking about? She asks again, sitting down beside me. You first, I say, turning my head to look at her, my fingers still working over the mechanisms of the autogun. Well, I'm going back to see another dawn, she admits, not looking back at me. I'm not scared, not really. I'm just curious. Like, this isn't you, that it's happening to someone else's life, I suggest, knowing that feeling. Yeah, it's something like that, she agrees, looking at me for the first time, understanding in her eyes. Is that how you feel? All the time, I admit, snapping the magazine off the autogun, back in place and cocking the firing mechanism with a loud click. When the time comes, it's almost like the rapture some preachers talk about. It's like the Emperor enters me, taking me over, like I become his weapon and nothing more. She looks at me with curious eyes, and I meet her gaze. Suddenly, the detachment is gone, and I don't see Sharpshooter. I see Tanya Strandisk, probably the last woman I'll ever see in my life. Stand up and look at the others, at Trost and Strelly, at Morik and Quidlin. For a moment, I see them as people, looking past the names and labels I gave them. There's Tanya, strong and confident again, but still haunted by her guilt. Trost, a merciless killer who acknowledges the pleasure he has gained from his bloody work and now relishes it. Strelly, without a care about anyone or anything else, determined to survive. Like I was a couple years ago, I suddenly realized. and Quidlin, more restrained, more awed by the wondrous and horrifying galaxy we live in, opened to the perils he has to face, but still determined to examine it, to try to understand it. And then there's Morik, sanctimonious, unforgiving, unrelenting in his beliefs and morals. He sees himself as a rock amongst the effluence of the stars. I couldn't hope for a better team. Then the moment passes, the grim reality of war. We have to do returns, and then become names and labels again: sharpshooter, flyboy, demolition man, brains, and hero. All of them part of an intricate plan, like a finely tuned clockwork device that must work together perfectly or the whole system will break down and die. And of course, there's me, last chance. Will I turn out to be the weak link? Is this going to be the last sunrise I see? Tanya asks from behind me. That's up to you, I say coldly. It depends how much you want to see another one. I don't know if I can take the shot, she says quietly, and I spit on her, ready to bawl her out. But she sat there cross legged, watching as Tao's star rising in the distance, bathing her in a red glow, lost from the world and her own thoughts. She wasn't telling me, she was asking herself. Of course you'll make that shot, I assure her, whispering in her ear. If you make that shot, you get to see another sunset and another sunrise. Is that a threat? She asks calmly. No, I say with a smile she can't see. It's my promise. If you make that shot, I'll make sure you see another sunrise. You said to never trust you, Tanya points out. How do I know you won't abandon me? I don't answer straight away. I don't understand myself and why I said it. It just came out. I stand there looking at her, then the others, and it comes to me. You're one of my last chancers, I say after a short while. You're my team, not the colonel's. You're my sharpshooter. And I picked you because you're the best. I picked all of you because you're all the best at what you do. I want to see you get those pardons and walk free, to do the thing which I can never do again. I want you to enjoy your next sunset, knowing you can enjoy them for the rest of your life. Most of all, I have heard, I have a head full of memories, which are all I have left of the last chancers from the first time around. I don't want to add any more. There's enough dead folks in my dreams. But Tanya isn't really listening to me, caught up in her own thoughts. It's Quidlin who wakes up next. And following my talk with Tanya, I decide to chat with him to gauge how he's feeling. It's not some notion that I want to see he's okay, but rather trying to figure out how he's going to act if we do end up fighting today. Will he get overexcited? Will he be a coward? Will he be focused on the mission? Or is he distracted? Knowing those things, I can take them into account when the fighting starts. A bright and hot day, I say to him conversationally as he drinks from a canteen. They all are, aren't they? He replies. The Tau homeworld is dry like this. They settle more worlds like their own, so I guess it's always going to be a bright and hot day. I've been in prison, aboard ship, and on these hot worlds for almost a year now, I tell him. I think I would like some rain, to feel it falling down on me. I never liked rain. It's cold, it's wet, and it makes people miserable, argues Quidlin. Where I'm from, it rains almost all the time, a constant, demoralizing drizzle that goes on and on and on and on. And when it stops, it's always cloudy. There's never any light. It's always gray and overcast. Don't you miss that then? I ask him as we walk together towards the shade offered by the looming dome between us and the sunrise. Would you like to see those cloudy skies again? Not at all, he says vehemently. I've been shown much more than I should have ever seen at home. There's so much more in the galaxy I never knew about, that I know about now. Every day has opened my eyes to something else. I've met soldiers and Navy staff. I've talked to officers and commissars. I've seen sunrises on other worlds and looked at different stars in the night skies. And none of that would have happened if I hadn't joined the Imperial Guard. You realize that might all end today, I say quietly as we enter the shade and I sit down. I look around. A few kroot are walking past. One of them nods towards us and I wave back. The sound of the city waking up and beginning to grow in volume. The clatter of stalls being set up, the alien traders shouting increasing, the murmur of life building around us. I could be dead, that's true, but I'm not really thinking about it, he replies. It doesn't worry you at all? I probe, not believing him. I want to see more, but I've seen 100 times the things most men see in a whole lifetime. More than I ever imagined existed when I was growing up, he tells me earnestly. Who knows what I'll experience when I'm dead? Maybe that's the greatest thing of all, the experience of a lifetime, so to speak. Don't be too eager to enjoy it, I warn him, remembering my own brushes with death. As I sit there, the pain behind my ears starts again, a dull ache that spread throughout my brain. Not unbearable, but certainly uncomfortable. I get a glimpse in my mind's eye of bolts, of lightning, and the stench of charred flesh. I try to ignore the thoughts and listen to Quidlin. Oh, last chance. I've got no intention of getting myself killed just yet. He laughs back at me, not noticing my distraction. Like I said, there's so much more to see here in the mortal worlds before I pass over. I've met orcs now. But I would like to see in Eldar, to see if it's true that they walk without touching the ground, or perhaps to visit one of the great cathedrals, or make a pilgrimage to Holy Terra itself. Is that what you'll do when you get your pardon? I ask, pushing the strange vision out of my thoughts as much as possible. I'll travel more, oh, certainly, he tells me with a smile. I don't know how I'll do it. Perhaps I will continue working for Inquisitor Oriel, or maybe I'll set up as a crewman on a starship. After all, I know a lot about mechanics. I'd avoid the Navy if I were you, I caution him. You don't seem to mix too well with the Adeptus Mechanicus, and there's hundreds of tech priests aboard every vessel. As for Oriel, the sooner you're shot of him and his devious ways, the better. He's a schemer, and his schemes can backfire horribly. And it'll be you in the firing line when it happens, not him. He's got a habit of escaping. Believe me, I know that. I tried to blow him up once, and that didn't work. I never realized you worked with Oriel before. What was it like? I mean, you haven't said much about the last mission you were on. That's because I'd rather not talk about it, I say, looking away. Too many memories. Too many people died who shouldn't have. I did things I never thought I would have to do. And now I'll do them again without a second thought. It killed me, but also showed me exactly who I am. And who's that? Oh, and who is that? Asked the colonel, giving me a start. I see him standing behind me, watching me with those ice cold eyes of his. I'm Lieutenant Kage of the 13th Penal Legion, Last Chancers, I tell him, standing up. I'm Last Chance, like you said. What does that mean? He continues, gesturing Quidlin away with a flick of his head. The trooper gives me a glance and walks off. It means I'm here to fight and die for the Emperor, I explained bitterly, turning away from him and taking a step. Do not walk away from me, Kage, he growls at me. What do you think you're doing, turning your back on an officer? It's not like that anymore, I laugh coldly. It's all changed this time. I'm not just the lieutenant. You're not just the colonel. This isn't about rank. This isn't about seniority. I've realized something. I've realized why you asked me to do the choosing and training. You can't do this on your own, can you? I know how much I've got bottled up memories inside me. All those memories, all that pain, all that blood on my hands. I can deal with it. You could deal with it as well. But how much more is there for you? I know you care. Don't try to tell me you don't. It may only be for our souls, not our bodies, but you care. And also, you give a damn about the mission. And you believe in the Emperor and everything else. You're not just a machine, you're a man, just like me. Emperor knows. Maybe you were me once. Maybe you were just some poor grunt. Or maybe you're born into it. Were you raised on officer's milk as a babe? You know nothing about me, Kage, he says after a moment, his eyes boring into me. You are right. I need your help. You showed me something special in Court Norm. I know you came back for me, and that is not just some damned pardon in my pocket. You do not understand some of what I'm trying to do, but you don't have a clue about the wider picture. You do not know about my past, and you do not know about your future. I needed you, and I still need you, but that is all. I do not care about you. I made it clear that you only get one chance, and you had the chance and you squandered it. So why not just kill me now? I dare him, holding my hands like a hostage. Maybe I will, pulling his auto pistol from his holster. Do it, I snarl. Kill me. You don't need me for this mission. I'm just going to be babysitting Quidlin and Tanya, and they can take care of themselves. I've done my part. You could have just killed me any time over the last 4 years, any time at all. And you've had justification. You could have killed me earlier after you caught up with me and the rookies on Typhos Prime, and you could have let them persuade you otherwise. They were threatening to kill me if I did. He tries to argue, but not too convincingly. The colonel was never too good at lying. Not telling the whole truth, he's got plenty of practice at that, but outright lies, he can't just pull that off. They wouldn't have, despite what they said, I tell him, bringing my hands down and pointing accusingly at me. You could have killed me, and you could have left me for dead when we got on Core Norm. You could have killed me after I murdered those Typhon officers and you found me drunk on that world. But no, you decided to wait until I woke up, then offer me another last chance, knowing that I would take it. What do you want me to say, Kage? He asks, holstering the pistol. That I need you on this mission in case it all goes wrong? That is true. I do need you as my backup. You are, without the doubt, one of the best soldiers I have ever met. But it is not what you really need me from. It is not what you really need from me. You want me to carry on punishing you because that is what you deserve. You know it is true. This is not about redemption. It is about punishment. You had your chance to get out of this forever, and you threw it away because you still feel guilty. You have felt guilty all your life, Kage, and you want me to feel guilty for you. You want me to put you through hell so that you can hate me, so that you do not have to admit that everything you are trying to prove to me is in fact something you need to prove to yourself. I'm a lying, cheating, murdering son of an orc. I laugh at him. I was a bastard even before you got a hold of me. What makes you think I feel guilty about anything I've done? It is not what you have done that plagues you, but what you did not do, he says to me, striding up and standing full in my face. You are right. You do not give a damn about those people you have killed. You do not care about the misery you have brought upon others. But you do know that perhaps, if you had not been so selfish and obsessed with your own survival, more of the last chancers might have made it out of Court Norm alive. You never intended for any of us to survive, you or Oriole, I accuse him, stepping back from his intimidating presence. Where was your sacrifice when it was needed? He continues relentlessly, stepping forward again. My personal judge and jury. Every night you ask yourself if you could have saved him. Do you think you could have saved Franks if you had not played dead in that air raid? Would you have steered Goppo away from that minefield if you had not been trying to desert? Why did you sweat blood on Cragmere to save Franks? Was it because you felt he was better than you? Do you hate yourself because of all those people who deserve to live more than you did? That is why you are the last chance. That is why you need me to punish you. Because, yes, you are a loathsome, selfish, cowardly piece of filth who the Emperor should have killed. But for your life, you do not know why he is not, and instead has taken everyone you once knew except me. I am the only thing you have left, Kage. I am not a memory, and I am not here to tell you that you do not walk away from me when I am talking to you. Nothing has changed. You are still scum, and it is still my duty to save you from yourself. I just laugh out loud, a good, hearty laugh from the gut, making my jaw ache. The colonel stands there looking at me with a quizzical stare, one eyebrow raised. I manage to get myself under control. A couple of the others start to come over. When they see the colonel, they back off again. Yes, colonel, I reply, saluting smartly, even as I try to stop smirking. If you have finished being a sanctimonious son of a bitch, sit. I would like my squad to fall in for inspection. Carry on, Lieutenant, he says with a nod, the formality restored. My thoughts are as jumbled. My thoughts are jumbled as I walk away, feeling his piercing gaze on my back, but they soon clarify as I start shouting at others.